today's video, we are going to balance three different equations, and these are the basic equations. So we'll see how we can start balancing them. So we are going to balance equations. These are actually from an O-levels book, but obviously you can learn balancing from anywhere. So the first equation is, we have N2 plus O2 goes to form NO2. So whenever we are going to balance the equation, first we have to note down the quantity of each element. For example, here I can write in reactants N is equals to 2 and O is equals to 2. While if we see the product, N is equals to 1 and O is equals to 2. That means in reactants and products, both oxygens are balanced, but nitrogen is not balanced. So in order to balance nitrogen, we'll start from the smallest number. So the smallest number is 2, because 1 is already there. The smallest number is 2. So what I'm going to do is, we have 2 nitrogens on this side. I'm going to add a 2 on this side. Now you can see nitrogens are balanced. We have 2 nitrogens. 1 plus 1 is equals to 2 nitrogens, but the oxygens have been disturbed. Before we had 2 oxygens, now 2 multiplied by 2, we have 4 oxygens now. So what are we going to do is, we are going to add a 2 on this, add a 2 on this side as well too. So 2 into 2, 4. 4. So now you can see the equation is balanced. In reactants we have 2 nitrogen, and in product we also have 2 nitrogens. In reactant we have 4 oxygen, and in product we have also 4 oxygens. So this is now a balanced chemical equation. Now, as we had balanced the first equation, now moving towards the second equation, how are we going to balance it? We are going to do the same thing. We are going to write the number of reactants, a number of elements present in the reactant. So if here we see, we have 2K, so K would be equals to 2, and here if we see, we have 1K, so K would be equals to 1. Now carbon, in the reactant we have only 1 carbon. This, if you see or have a closer look, there is no other carbon here. And if we have a look on the products, we have also only 1 carbon available here. Oxygen. Now how many oxygens are present in the reactant? Here we have 3 oxygens, so 3, and in product we have 2 oxygens here with carbon dioxide plus 1 oxygen with water. So 2 plus 1 is equals to 3 oxygens here. Moving towards hydrogen, in the reactant we have only 1 hydrogen, this one, and in the product I have 2 hydrogens, H2, like that. And lastly we have chlorine. In the reactant I have only 1 chlorine, Cl is 1, and in the product I also have only 1 chlorine. So if we see this reaction, the potassium is not balanced, the carbon is balanced, the oxygens are balanced, the hydrogen is also not balanced, and the chlorines are balanced. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start from potassium. Here in the reactant, I have 2 potassiums, but in the product, I have only 1 potassium. So I'm going to add a 2 here. Okay. Now, if we have a closer look, we can see that the potassium are balanced now. In the reactants, we have 2 potassium, and in the product, we also have 2 potassium. So the potassium is now balanced. Okay. Now, when I've added 2 with KCl, the chlorine gets unbalanced. Why? Because in the reactant we had only 1 chlorine, but when we balanced potassium we added a 2, so chlorine became 2. So now in order to balance this chlorine, we are going to add a 2 here. So in the reactants, chlorine also gets balanced, and hydrogen also gets balanced. How? In the product we had 2 hydrogens, but in the reactant we had 1 hydrogen. When we added a 2 in order to balance the chlorine, it also balanced our hydrogen. So that would be 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. So the hydrogens also gets balanced now. Okay, so now the last equation is we have to balance this equation. So in the reactants, if we see, we have 3 carbons, and in the product we have only 1 carbon, right? In the reactant we have 8 hydrogens, but in the product we have only 2 hydrogens. Now in the reactant I have 2 oxygens, but in the product I have 2 plus 1, 3 oxygens. Okay, now if we have a closer look in this equation, nothing is balanced. So we'll start from where? I guess we can start from anywhere. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I am going to balance the carbon. In the reactants I have 3 carbons, but in the product I have only 1 carbon, so I'm going to add a 3 in the product. Okay, so 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equals to 3. Now we can see that the carbons are balanced on both the sides. But what happens is when we added a 3 with carbon dioxide, then 3 into 2, oxygen became 6 plus 1. So we have 7 oxygens now. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Now we are going to balance oxygen. So we in the product, we have 3 2s are 6 plus 1, 7. We have 7 oxygens. And how many hydrogens we have in the product? 2, and in the reactants we have 8 hydrogens. Okay, so first of all I'm going to balance the hydrogen. If I'm going to add a 4 here, so 4 2s are 8. Hydrogens are now balanced, but now oxygen again gets disturbed. So I'm going to write oxygen again. 3 into 2, 6, and here 4. So 6 plus 4 is equals to 10. Now in the product I have total 10 hydrogens. So what I'm going to do in the reactant, I'm going to add 5. 5 2s are 10. Now as you can see that the equation gets properly balanced. Now let's see what are the coefficients that we have added in all the equations. In the first equation, I have added 2 here and 2 here. As a result, the equation gets balanced. In the second equation, I have added 2 here and 2 here. We start from the smallest number, so the equations gets balanced. In the third equation, we added a 5 here, we added a 3 here, and we added a 4 here, and the equation gets properly balanced. That's it for this lecture. We'll meet in the other lecture again. Thank you.